So this is part of our news for this week. This is the CloseReach YouTube channel. And so on it, you'll see a number of presentations. The CBP presentation from January. We've got the QualiWare user group meeting from March. We've actually started to split out some of the April meeting into the data modeling piece, information and data visualization, and there'll be 3 or 4 others coming up shortly on the site. And on the data modeling, we've just Brianna, who's our social media person and YouTube expert, has just figured out how to put various stop points in on the video, so we'll be able to break it down, and you'll be able to click directly through to the part of the meeting that was of interest to you. For example, the parts talking about physical reengineering or generating a physical model from a database, real time changes. Making changes to a model and generating DDLs, et cetera, So we'll have that version up with the various checkpoints on it to make it easier to flip through the videos. But wanted to make you aware of this, and there will be a link to this put up on our support tab on our website in the next day or so. Other news. We're expecting the release of QualiWare 10.3 in early June, and you can ask Jacob for more details on that a little later. But we'll also share the release notes as soon as they're available. They are not available as yet. In terms of training, our spring training sale, we had it originally ending the end of May. We're extending it to the end of spring, which is beginning of summer, so June 21st. So there's a 25% discount on the purchase of 2 or more QualiWare courses, and you can go look at our interactive training calendar, which has training built out. The sale runs for courses taken before the end of August, but our training calendar extends beyond that. So if your department or you as an individual are interested in specific training, we've been updating that. I mentioned the YouTube channel. The other components that we'll be putting up is separately. There's going to be a small section there on QualiWare X 10.3 in Azure, modeling in a browser, and some QualiWare and workflow automation / analytics a piece there as well. Just a reminder, our new file sharing platform is up and running. So one set of credentials now gets you into access any of the download files and also previous QualiWare user group presentations, into the actual files. So no need for multiple credentials there. QWIs, we're going to continue. These are the QualiWare incidents that have been recorded. We're going to continue to go through the status of those at every QualiWare user group meeting, and we'll start to post that stuff on our support portal as well. And we anticipate our user group meetings continuing virtually at least for the next couple of months. There are some departments that have started to put in place reopening plans. D&D being one of them, although that hasn't been publicly released yet. They're anticipating over the next 8 to 10 weeks, slowly bringing people back. And so as we find out those things, we'll make people aware of them, as well as any mask requirements or things like that. So I don't know if anybody's heard anything about their departments, but if you have, be interested in hearing that.
So Kevin, Eric Sheik here from D&D.
Yep.
We just got a message. Well, we've been getting the resumption plan in place. So June 1st is our official date, and it's very sporadic. And their resumption to work plan consists of a combined work effort from home and also for essential work services in office, and setting up the offices and all the different safety policies in place to accept the workforce returning to the buildings. So that's June 1st is the official date for us, but it's trickled in over the next 6 to 8 months.
Okay. Anyone else have anything from their departments?
As far as I know, shared services was, well, we were pretty much all working remote before, and we're still working remote. As far as I know, I haven't heard of any plans for us to go back yet.
Yeah, same thing with ESDC.
Okay. Well, it's good information. You know, people don't hear about different departments very often, so if we can share stuff now, you know, that's useful. I was actually in at our offices on Saturday and looking at the facility in terms of our own situation for the, you know, at least for May and all of June, and probably into July, we will all be working remotely. But I was looking at the training room situation in terms of offering classroom-based training. And based on the situation, I would think the maximum that we would be able to offer would be 8 people in that classroom, which would provide sufficient distancing for everyone. And we would look at providing masks and sanitizer and everything once, you know, those instructor-led classroom-based courses resume. But we will still continue to offer all of our training, or as much as all of the QualiWare training at least, online. So, you know, if you look at our course calendar that's up on the website, it's very specific about what's virtual and what's not. And if you look at anything, you know, in the near future, it is all virtual. So, anyhow, that's it for news, Cecile.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Great. Jacob, you are up next, if you are ready.
Sure. Do you need to,
All right.
can I just press?
I just changed the presenter to you.
All right. Cool. If anyone cares, Denmark is pretty much open. QualiWare is all back at the office. The only thing really closed in Denmark are nightclubs and concerts, and then the bars have to close at midnight. So, oh yeah, and we have the borders closed. So we are pretty much open now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about business continuity today. Of course, and obviously triggered by the COVID situation, we did a review of our business continuity and our business impact analysis. We have done a few updates to this, so there are changes compared to what you have in 10.2. There is an ISO standard, ISO 22300 and something, that deals with business continuity. And we did a review of that and made sure that naming conventions and so on were up to date. And then we went through some best practices as well. So it's not very complex. I'll go through first the meta model and then some of the reports that that we have done. As always, you can interrupt me as much as you like when we go through this. First of all, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And when I open a dialog here, is that too small, or can you see what's on it?
A little small,
okay.
Jacob.
Let's see if I can. Wonder what happens if I. Did that help?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
So we have an object type inside QualiWare called the business impact analysis element, which is part of the business impact analysis, obviously, and it's the key in what we're going to talk about today. And this is also what has been updated a little bit compared to what you have in 10.2 today. So a business impact analysis element is basically that list of everything that that can go wrong, and the associated attributes with that. And I'll just go through some of these quickly. Triggering events, what sort of event can trigger this particular risk or this particular business impact. You will see a little bit that it resembles a little bit risks, and the difference between a risk and a business impact analysis element, it will vary a little bit depending on the type of business. I'll come back to that a little bit, but we can align these directly with risks as well. There are some overall characteristics here, and these actually comes from that ISO standard. So you have by a type, whether it's financial, reputational, operational, legal, contractual, or business objectives. And then there are some timing in terms of what is the maximum tolerable period of disruption, and what is our recovery time objective. And then we can talk about how what sort of impact this will have. So we can have impact toward our capabilities, our processes. When we have our processes, we can talk about how that would impact the customer. So this is a textual description. Depending on the type of architecture you have done, sometimes when you have the affected processes, you by use of the architecture can talk about what sort of output these were supposed to produce, and which processes that would impact. If you do not have that, you can manually add those processes in here, right? So again, something happens, these processes are impacted. Those processes typically produce an output that would be required by these processes in here. We can of course impact systems as well. There can be some legal impact in here. Right now, these are just textual descriptions. We can talk about the affected resources from an asset point of view, and whether some of those might be essential to us. There's workaround you can describe in here as well. And then we come to the interesting part about these. It's about there's something here that can happen. You can build up a resilience to that. So there is a resilience element in here. So if we take the equivalent on risks and our risk controls can be a preventive or detective measure. The preventive measures would be equivalent to the resilience elements here, right? So this is something we build up to make sure that the impacts are that we're able to deal with those. On the other side of this has happened. So these are the recovery elements. So this is what we plan to do if we run into any of these business impacts that are defined as elements here. So this is just to go through this object or template type in here. If I jump, let's see if I can hide this one up here a little bit. In the web, we now have under risk, we have the business continuity. So a little bit like what we have done on the risk when I did the risk presentation a couple of times ago, we tried to take these in the order that makes sense in terms of doing a business impact analysis. So the first we have here in the list is the business impact register. So now here we have a list of all these different type of business impact analysis elements that we have identified. And in here, I mean, there are some examples in here with, you know, abrupt loss of key personnel. You have the data centers that caught fire, all the way down to war at the end. There's a description and then the triggering event. And again, I showed you the dialogue in there. Everything you can do on the dialogue in the QLM tool, you can do from the web as well. So if you have the events defined in here, you can attach those as well. Now I talked about aligning these with risks. So if we already have risks that are that pretty much cover the same thing, which might be the case in some situations, you can define them in here as well. There's the potential financial loss and the operational loss. We have the BIA type elements. So this is kind of the register to register all these BIA elements, but on a generic level. The next 2 points that we have in the list are taking these same elements and then aligning them up either against our process and compliance or our technology. So if I pick the process and compliance, you will see that out here we have the affected processes, right? So again, there is a loss of key personnel. These are the essential processes that will be impacted by this. And then again, we have the additional attributes that you saw in inside QLM as well. The second part in the business continuity was the technology. So linking it up against that underlying infrastructure. And in here we have the notions of how much will we actually allow this to happen. So how much outage will we allow before this impact occurs? How much time do we is our goal for recovery? Sorry, this was the minimum. So minimum time needed for recovery. So it's actually the other way around. Again, these wordings and these attributes come from that ISO 22313, I think it is. We can pick up on that after in the follow-up if you need it. So all of this is about getting all our business impact analysis defined and probably linked up against our existing architecture. So what we have talked about so far is what can actually happen and what will it impact. So we haven't done anything yet about how we're going to react to it. It's making sure that we have this register fully defined. In here, again, under our business continuity, we now can do an analysis. So what this one will do is it'll take all these elements that we have defined in our business impact analysis, and it'll find out based on what it will impact. Do we already have risks defined for these? And the idea is that if something can happen, And we actually have, we know it will touch this process, and there are already risks defined in here. That means we already have either preventive or detective measures in place to mitigate something in here. And remember, this is all about figuring out which of these elements do we have properly covered. And do we need to do more? So I can add my filters in here, and I can see from my preventive elements, if I just put a sort in here, I can see that we already have a lot of activities in here that works as preventive measures on risks that are somehow associated with this particular business impact analysis element. It gives us a way of figuring out where is it we want to start, where should our efforts be, where do we need to start defining measures against each of these elements. The next is the resilience plan. So the resilience plan is now again the preventive measures. So we get a list again of the resilience elements. We can talk about how do we achieve this resilience. We do that by implementing. In here we have processes, and as you can see, what the elements we can put in here to build resilience are typically processes or activities. So activities can be performed by systems as well, so remember that. But it's all about building that resilience, and we do that against a specific element in that business impact analysis. So this is where we can tie these up. And again, if we have risks already defined in here, we can link up these risks through this this spreadsheet as well. Now, I'm not sure if, and if you can see the second we link up the risk with the system or this spreadsheet will automatically be populated with the information that came out of that risk. Now, I don't know how much you guys have used the spreadsheet yet, but remember that when you have these spreadsheets with objects in them, you can actually go in and let's see here. You can add objects in here. So you see here, where do we have that? So I can go in and I can create a new resilience element in here. And the second I press save, this is added to the repository. So it's possible to go in here and add new objects through this spreadsheet as well. It's not just editing existing ones. So this is a way of starting to build again content in the repository without necessarily having to go through those graphical models as well. Now again, with the resilience plan, there is a report that we can build in here that instead of taking an offset in those resilience elements, show the complete list of the business impact analysis elements again, and showing us where do we have these elements defined. Are there processes or activities again in place to actually execute that resilience setup? And again, if they link up to the risks, you will have that as part of this report here as well. So it's possible to get the system to generate that resilience plan and making sure that you have the right coverage from a resilience point of view. And if any of you come up with a resilience element for wall, I would like to see that one. But again, some of these are a little bit funny. There's an abrupt loss of key personnel, and the resilience element is prevent fire in technical installations. So this would mean you can lose people by having a fire in the technical installation. So it might be a little bit move them away from those installations instead. Anyway, it's a good type of overview to find out if you have the proper resilience coverage for your business impact elements. The next part of this is the recovery plan. So the recovery plan is where this has happened, and we need to find out what are we going to do about this. So again, these are the recovery elements. The recovery elements have a focus. So what is it that we want to recover? Where do we want to recover from? So again, these here are the business impact analysis elements. So these are what has happened. This is what we need to recover. This is indicating how soon do we need to start this. So basically from day 0, if this is offline, we need to start to get working on this. We have the duration. So how soon do we believe we can get this up and running again? And then we have the planned actions. So again, the planned actions in here, as you can see, it can be, again, activities, it can be projects or initiatives that we kick in into motion. Again, when you have these type of tables, you can see you can actually, if you click insert on this field and choose a project in here, it will actually add another object in here. So that means the planned actions here are actually a multi-link field on this. So this is a little bit back on the meta model, but it is possible to add objects through the spreadsheet. So you don't have to go through the dialogues to get these added in here. And the second these get added, if there are any attributes in here on these objects, they will automatically get populated in here as well. At the end of all this, we should have a coverage that covers our business impact assessment and our reaction to that. And if I go into my business continuity menu item here again, I have my recovery responsibilities. And this is really the result here. This is the ability to see when something happens, what are the focus when we start the recovery plan, what are the processes or work that has to be done, and who is actually the owner of this. So this is where we also can find out, am I responsible for something in here that needs to be done, and I can search and find out what are my responsibilities in terms of this business continuity and resilience plan. Everyone is very quiet. That's okay. I went through this a little quick. Did it make sense?
Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, Carol here. I've participated in a business continuity exercise. We used to do one every 6 months. And the business continuity lead was using MS Project to do all the links and the interdependencies on which system you bring back in first, and so on and so forth. So would you have any advice on how do you bring about the MS project data for business continuity, or the contingency planning into an Excel format that would map for QualiWare to work? Is there any tweaking that we need to be done, or can we import the MS project directly into this? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, the challenge is probably to make sure that it links up against something you actually have in your architecture.
Okay.
I mean, and it's always, I mean, getting data in is the easy part. The tricky part is making sure that it actually links up. So when you have these elements that whatever we point to in your organization, those processes or systems or capability actually exist.
So you're probably looking at a enterprise architecture maturity level that is pretty high for this functionality to be leveraged. You have to have a lot of architecture artifacts in there to make this work, right?
Well, it depends, right? Because you can go to the detailed level you like. So the processes you have can be high-level processes if you don't have them detailed enough yet.
Okay.
So
the other thing is that you already have your application portfolio, so you know what systems are out there. What's readily apparent a lot of times is the sequence in which those systems need to be brought back, and that really, whether that's documented in Microsoft Project or whether that's documented here. I guess the concept is, do you need Microsoft Project if the information were all documented here?
No, I totally get that. It's just that if we wanted to port over that contingency plan into QualiWare, most people would probably have a lot of that data in MS Project. So that's why I was bringing that up. Like, I don't think people are all using Excel to do contingency planning.
But you can expel. You
can bring MS Project into Excel, right?
Or you can export to just CSV files or whatever, which are easy enough to follow.
Yeah.
We do have. There was an interface in the past, I believe, for exporting out to Project. But if Project can produce XML files, which I believe they can, there's nothing stopping the import of that content.
So, but it would probably be a partial import, right? Where you import some of it and some of it you have to do again. But if you can get all the elements in here, for example, so you have all the elements defined. So when you have data center on fire, you can attach the process in here, and if the processes are not here, you can just create that process in this interface as well. Okay. So it is possible to do these things, and yeah, make it possible to do this. I think in a doable way, but I doubt that. Well, if you're lucky, you can import them directly, but we would have to do name matching. And when you do that, you have to make sure that everyone spells the same way, and yeah, then it gets a little bit more tricky.
Jacob, Eric Sheik here, comment on what you presented.
Yeah.
So Jacob, thank you for this. This is very interesting. So one of the groups within D&D, one of the level 1 groups, Idiom Math, are about 4,500 people. So we had a fire in one of our buildings a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, and we had to vacate the building and reestablish business within a couple of days. we suffered some significant embarrassment, I would say, based on that activity. And after that activity, we decided to create I guess a business continuity, a little bit more revised plan than we thought we were good at. So what we did a little bit differently, where we identified key essential services from a role base, and every one of those roles, we created a secondary requirement that if somebody were to hold a essential role, had to create a description, a work description per se, of all the things they did and all the different checklists and the organizational components that they run on a day-to-day basis, and everything that was important to them in this template. So it had a list of their org charts, their staff, their budget, their day-to-day trackers. So I had all these links to different files. So we standardized this checklist, and we created a database of roles that were deemed essential for business continuity, that had all these checklists that could be opened up electronically anywhere in the world, and business could continue. So the one thing that we did link it to is their activities. Without having the activities developed in a business process, there was really nothing to link to, but at least we were able to link to these checklists, which had all these various files and trackers. So I could see using the QualiWare tool to link all the roles to these checklists, to these activities, and further on to business process that could be developed.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense, but there must have been an analysis that led up to these things, right? Which would be implied in what you're doing here as well.
Yeah, exactly. There was some criterion that was provided to assess our organization for the essential services. So we had to go through that gymnastics without, you know, that beautiful tool that you just showed us. We have to do that, you know, in a subjective manner, for sure.
Yeah, and this is also why, I mean, when we started, I mentioned risk management, right? Because there are some of these things are just a regular risk you deal with in your day-to-day operations for some people, for some organizations, and for other organizations, it belongs in a business impact analysis because it's not really something we expect. So this process, what we're going through right now with COVID-19 and the idea of everyone getting infected, you know, for a company like QualiWare, that would belong in our business impact analysis. For a hospital, that should be part of your standard risk management, because we need to make sure that we are ready for this. It's not something that's caught off guard, right? So there is a little bit of a blurry line sometimes between those two, and that is something that you know, if when you have you lose your data center, again, for QualiWare, that's probably just a BA element, because our data centers is something we pay others to do, but the data center itself, they have this as part of their regular risk management, because that's part of their compliance and what they have to live up to. So that nuance between when it becomes a risk and when it becomes a business impact element, it's sometimes a little floating, but the principles in big part of this is the same. You have the resilience, and then you have the recovery part. And I guess, Eric, what you're describing here is that you've done a lot of resilience work to make sure that if it actually happens, you have a recovery plan ready to go, right?
Yeah, that's very well said. Reality says other things when you kick in the plan, but this is where you do some more gaming ahead of the execution, it's definitely a good idea. So we had a test a couple of years when we had that fire, and we were definitely tested again. We did maybe a little bit better, but still, I think we all learned a hell of a lot on this COVID-19 posture for sure. Thanks again.
I have a question for you, Jacob. You're showing us the web interface here, but I know in the FIG client, you can actually go to Files, send to an RTF, which creates a on-the-spot report. Problem is, if there's an emergency or there's a huge outage, your QualiWare system will not be available. So as part of your contingency planning is you need to have a hard copy that people can look at if something goes wrong and the network access no longer is available.
Right.
So is this a possibility where once you enter all this data, can you spit out that report and people can just run with that and know exactly what they need to do?
I guess that's a good question. QualiWare is, of course, the most important system you have, so that's highly redundant. I get your point.
You can generate any kind of reporting that you need, so you can produce hard copy as required. I mean, the reality is, how you're going to access those systems or that content, it'll depend. Like if it's your cloud operation that's down and that has the problem, and QualiWare is sitting on that cloud, you're going to need some kind of backup somewhere. So there is obviously every department's got contingency data centers and contingency plans as well. But producing hard copy, you can definitely use the reporting facilities in QualiWare to produce a series of reports.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering if I have an example of that in here. Have you seen the report generator?
Yes.
Okay. So the report generator should be able to traverse whatever you do. I just got this new demo, so
No, I totally get it. I mean, if we need to create a report, that's fine. That's the answer to that question, I guess. But,
I mean, but just remember that it's the second you have that report defined, it will always run on current data. So whenever you update your system, you just have to regenerate those reports and store them outside.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jacob while we still have him? Or can we, Jacob, you're welcome to stay, but it's quite a bit later for you than it is for us. So if anybody has any questions.
Hey, Jacob, it's Gail.
Hi, Gail.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've created a risk register, and business continuity is one of the type of risks that we record and attempt to manage. So my first question is, how would you suggest we separate these things out to dive deeper into recovery and resilience? Second question is, and I'm glad you're back on the web front end. And in this particular view, for example, you're showing transformational risk, which will show me what I'm interested in as this particular, from a strategy point of view, and I can also register risks. So how do you handle business continuity on the web front end? Thanks.
Well, business continuity is what I just showed, right? So it's a combination of the business continuity I showed now plus the risk part that I did on the previous. And again, there are organizations who are just doing all this as part of their risk management, which is fine. And this, again, some organizations are in a situation where they have to be online or ready or whatever it might be 24/7, right? So, I mean, if you have an organization like DND, the idea of a war should not be something that goes in as a business impact, it's probably just a risk and as part of their daily operations. So it varies a little bit, and there's no problem in building your organizational resilience into the risk as well. There are just some other angles in the business continuity part when we do the BIA elements, and we use those principles from that ISO standard. So there's some methodology in it as well. So I guess it's a little bit up to each organization in terms of where you prefer to start, but I don't think there's a wrong choice here.
So in certain instances, you would do both, right? You would dive deeper into the recovery and resilience in certain cases.
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're talking to. Resilience in this context is meant related to the business impact analysis. When you're talking about risk management and resilience in your day-to-day operations, that's your detective and preventive measures related to your risks. So just don't. There's a difference between resilience from the business impact analysis and resilience in terms of your operations. Resilience in your operations is part of your risk management.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments, discussion related to this topic with Jacob? Don't be shy, going once, going twice. Okay, Jacob, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm gonna jump off as well here. If you have any follow-up questions, just reach out to CloseReach and we'll
Actually, Jacob, before you go, any updates on 10.3?
So in general, so I can just, I don't know yet. Okay, so I asked today. So in 10.3 in general is a lot of bug fixes and performance improvement. There are some the changes on the meta model is primarily on the business continuity I just showed you. Plus, we did some work on the UN Global Compact. So the new United Nations goals on sustainable and ethical organizations. We built that into to the meta model as well. And then, as you can see there, we did some changes in the standard publisher when you deploy that. So there's a little bit more intuitive type of structure in some of these menus, instead of just using architectural terms like logical and physical layer. So lots of small improvements and bug fixes around the tool is what I have been told so far. We should have that list of included in the release notes ready by the end of this week, and then you'll have more.
Okay, thank you.
Jacob, I have one last question. It's Carol again.
Mm-hmm.
I heard there's a fundamental bug in putting bullets in notes. Apparently, you have to do them manually, and when you publish those to the web, they're represented as vertical lines. So I don't know, apparently this has been ongoing for many years, and I'm not sure if there's a plan to fix that fundamental bug in QualiWare.
I don't know. I haven't heard this.
Okay. Are you aware? Like, I'm not even sure if you guys have it on a radar as part of your problem management. On your website. I don't know if it's been reported or not.
So bullet points like this in the text?
Okay, yeah, exactly. Bullets in a note. They don't work very well.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, it works. Is this? I have never heard of this.
So Carol, are you talking about bullets in a note or in the description field of an object?
In a note. Yeah.
But that's. Okay,
Well, I
don't
think
know.
it's actually, I think it's in the description field.
Yeah, it should be.
When you press on the F8 and you've got the whole, you know, editor there.
Yeah.
Well, the bullet itself apparently doesn't work. You have to add them manually, and when you publish them, they show up as vertical lines. This might be something worth investigating because it's really a fundamental of the tool, right? So
Carol,
so these bullets here.
yeah.
Okay.
So Carol, I'll follow up after the meeting. I'll follow up offline, and we'll with your EA services group, get a description of the issue, make sure it's been reported, and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
So,
Like if you publish this to the web, you're on the web right now, are you? Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
So they're showing fine. So maybe it's our environment. I'm not sure.
It's. Oh wait, let's see if I'm. Should be on the right one here. It's not something that I've heard of. So.
I do have another change request.
Okay.
Yeah, it's change request 0402, Jacob.
Okay. And this is something you read. Look, it popped up like fine, like dots, right? So.
But
Yeah,
Jacob,
okay
she was just saying it was a note object.
I think it is a note. I'm not 100% sure. Ken is on the line. Maybe he can clarify it.
I'd rather take it offline, Carol.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
so
Carol,
Jacob,
we'll be in touch with you. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jacob,
Well, yeah. Go on.
next time you present, there's one prerequisite to your presentation, is we want to see the scenery outside your new office.
It's only gonna be dark.
Yeah, it's dark now, Eric.
Yeah, of course during the day.
Yeah, I actually did. Yeah, I will be happy to show you.
Maybe you can take a video when it's daylight and you can just show it or something.
Yeah.
Either that or Jacob's going to make us get up at 6 a.m. so we can see it at 12 noon.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting. I'll be happy to do that. All right.
We want to see people partying in Denmark.
I might get in trouble for that because in Denmark they jump in naked out here. I don't know if I can broadcast that across the
Probably
Atlantic.
can't. No, it's probably some rule.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So I'm going to turn things over now to Scott Elmore from our support team. Last month, we introduced a new part of our user group meeting, a list of the open incidents that are with QualiWare, primarily to make everyone aware of issues that you might not have seen before because they've been reported by other departments. So it's to increase awareness and then also to give any updates that we've received from QualiWare. So I'm just handing this over to Scott, and Scott can lead us through.
All right. All right. So taking a look at the first batch here. These have been ongoing for a little while now. We've got the hashtags not working, issues been reported to QualiWare, and this one is still so what we have here is the three got a total of 8 identified issues that have been reported to QualiWare. Some have some workarounds, some don't. And you can identify whether it's an incident or a change request by how the naming convention is. So with this QualiWare incident, the drag and dump drop functionality not working with a resource is right-clicked, select from a business process 1 and dropped into business process 2. It was identified as a bug and there's no current ETA on it. This one here is a change request, so it's been reported back to QualiWare, and this is what we were just talking about with the bullets.
Why would that be a change request?
I actually don't know, to be honest with you, but I can.
From our perspective, it's definitely a bug.
I think it's how they're handling it on their end.
Okay.
I think that might mean, Ken, that it's moved through to the stage that it's a change request to change the application, but I'll follow up with Jacob.
Okay.
I think it means it's got to the stage where they've accepted it and moved it into something.
So that's good news.
They're actually, that would be good news, yes.
So on this one, we've got choice fields in HTML dialog does not like the 0 as a choice. It's been identified as a defect and marked as a high priority, so we're still waiting to hear any other updates on this one. The implementation and migration viewpoint of Archimate template, wrong customization, error message when opening is also as well a defect with no ETA. This one here, users cannot right-click a lifeline object, drag it, and reuse it on a graph. The option to reuse it on the graph is there, but the object does not appear on the template after dropping. Again, been identified as a defect with no ETA yet. Spell checkers is still not available in version 10.1. We don't have any updates on this. The QualiWare is planning to reintroduce it at a later date, but haven't said when. All right, this is a new one. We currently have a repository that connects to another. We have encountered an issue with the Explorer view when browsing objects on the connected to the repository. The Explorer view does not display full list of records, only a subset, the top and the subset from the bottom. Right now, the workaround for this is to use the list view button to view all of the templates. That's currently what we have on as far as tickets open with QualiWare. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you.
You're welcome. I do have a comment here from Sue, if requesting that we associate the version. I'll do my best on getting that updated for the next one.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. And this listing will have a permanent home, either on our support, I believe on our support portal. Rashab and Scott are working on that. So we will have a section, an area available on the support portal where you'll be able to look at the current list and see the current status. Okay, thank you, Scott. Next, we have Kevin. Kevin for discussing Blueworks import and export capability.
Hi, everybody. Cecile, do you want to give me control again?
You want to share something? Sure.
I do.
All right. One moment, please. There you go.
Let me figure out which screen to show here. There we go. So we're just in the process of finishing a document. They're talking about the interface between QualiWare and Blueworks. And I'm just going to move this window. There we go. There are some departments that are using Blueworks. not everyone, but what we've gotten from QualiWare are the necessary files to implement the interface. There's two scripts that need to be either executed when running the interface or made part of your standard installation. So put in your models BPM folder. So the document we're putting together will describe, sort of what the interface is about, what technical considerations are involved, options for installing those script files, and either in the models folder, and they actually go in. We've got a number of screenshots showing you where to put them, and so that they'll execute every time if you want that option available. And then option 2 obviously is just running the script, making the script available to the particular users that need it, and they can run that QCL script when they open QualiWare specifically. And then we've got, we're putting together the description for actually the various steps for going through and importing the BPMN or XPDL files from Blueworks. So there is some work that needs to be redone when documents or models are pulled in. They come through pretty clearly, but as with all imports, you've seen the Visio. You do have to move things around somewhat after the fact to sometimes clean that up, and Blueworks is no exception. So we don't get 100% of the geographic information for the models, or the connectors, but the import is, in our tests has been pretty good. So that document is going to be posted on our support portal in the knowledge base, and you can just go there and select Blueworks, search for Blueworks, and it will turn up. This is part of something that we're going to continue to do, which is identify various interfaces with other systems. For example, we have an interface with ServiceNow, and we're going to be documenting that. I know that QualiWare has an interface with Eris and a couple of other EA tools, and we're going to be getting those files from them and building a similar type of document so that if there are other tools being used in your environment, or if there are there's historical information that you want to pull in, or from other suppliers, then you'll be able to do that. So, increasing the number of interfaces with other tools and improving how that works. I mean, we have interfaces with Sparks right now, and other IBM tool sets. So we're just going to continue that process, and as we get that documentation ready, we'll post it up to the knowledge base on the support portal and make people aware of it. So.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Okay, we've come to the part of the agenda that's open discussion and questions. So I will open it up. Anyone who has something that they'd like to discuss, bring up. Any questions for any of your fellow attendees or for the CloseReach staff? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. It's nice to have you all join us again for these meetings. It's important that we keep in touch with each other and keep the community going. So thank you very much for your attendance and your attention, and we will see you in a few weeks.